Hello and welcome to the Universe of SAP BTP in a Nutshell webcast series. Here once again a quick overview of the entire series and what you can be curious about in the next months. Today's session will focus on extended planning and analysis with SAP Analytics Cloud. Our experts for today are Jenny Faulhaber, Product Manager for SAP Analytics Cloud, and Nick Verhoeven, Solution Manager, Planning and Analytics. I will share later on our contact details, so if any questions pop up after the presentation, feel free to contact us. Before I hand over to our experts, I would like to inform you about other upcoming sessions and events that might be of interest for you. We have already shared the information about our companion series, From No-Code to Pro-Code, the right solution for everyone, and the series starting April 20 on applications operations. In addition, we have a short series on HR and a series on how to transform your business for industries with BTP. In addition to the online events, we have on-site events. The first one starting soon in Madrid, followed by 2 sessions events in the Nordics, 4 in Canada, and 1 in Dublin. And most of you will already know about the SAP Garage series. So we will have, let me see what the title is. On April 5th, we will have the next episode on how to instruct SAP Ariba Cloud Services data through standard APIs. Last but not least, of course, I would like to inform you about the various practitioner forums open to you. I will share all links later in the chat. And with this, I would like to hand over to Nick. Nick, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. So hello, everyone. Nick Verhoeven, Solution Manager, as introduced. And I have the pleasure today to speak about the topic of xP&A as part of BTP. So a slide that many of you will have seen in prior sessions, if you've tagged along for a while now, is this slide. So that is the architecture of the offering of SAP. And if you haven't seen the prior session, let me allow me to take you through it really quick. So first, at the center, we have our cloud ERP. So this is the core of SAP's offering, enterprise resource planning, really managing your business day to day. This is extended with line of business applications in the cloud. So human capital management to manage the hire to retire process. We have spend management, procure to pay process, and customer relationship management, the lead to cash process. Around that, we have ecosystem solutions provided by our partners to support the overarching end-to-end business processes a company would have. A solid foundation, however, is needed. And this is where you see the business technology platform. If we focus on the business technology platform, we see it as the core of SAP's offering. So we see here app development, automation, integration, and AI. So all of the latest technologies to make sure that there is a glue within all of these offerings that we have within SAP. And the exciting bit that I'm speaking about today is the data and analytics bit. Here we have offerings to store your data, to do data warehousing, to do data management. But more importantly, in my eye, that is, it's also forward-looking. So understanding what will the future bring. And within that, what will we focus on? It is enterprise planning. And enterprise planning is by its very nature forward-looking. And the reason why I think it's so important, it is because it's a business imperative. We've seen that we're living in a highly turbulent world these days. So we see disruptions in the supply chain, potentially causing a decline in customer loyalty because we can't deliver on time. We need to anticipate that. We have huge inflation. So we need to do a scenario, understand what would it mean if we do increase the merits of our employees? What does it do to our cost? And how do we need to adjust our price? Geopolitical influences, tariffs between companies arising, also a major cost factor. And we need to be ready for this best we can. So we need to have multiple scenarios at play so that if a situation arises, we're ready for it and we can make sure we execute on top of that. Now, this is a great vision, but what we know from our experience in the field is that these different types of planning needed to deal with those situations are often not integrated. Not integrated from a technical perspective, but also not integrated from a process perspective, leading to a lot of rework, adjusting and trusting each other's plans. But maybe even worse, making decisions without really understanding the true cost and drivers of profitability. We see a key role here for finance, because finance can actually be a key partner in supporting strategic decisions. So really this business partnering paradigm, because they should align with the different departments, so workforce, supply chain, commercial planning, to understand what is happening in the real business execution and make sure that it's aligned with our strategic vision. So these operational business activities run in tandem with our financial directives. And if we bring all of this together, we would have one connected plan from strategy all the way to operations, and that we can actually execute on top of those plans. And the combined vision of that is xP&A, which stands for Extended Planning and Analysis. Now, of course, we have a strategy for that. So this is our positioning of that strategy that has 3 pillars. So first up, we have transform planning. So that is really looking at planning processes and providing those integrations, really extending those plans. Then it's driving agile decisions. Of course, the planning process itself needs to be innovative so we can do more with less. And finally, plan with confidence. Planning is only as good as the quality of the data that's in it, because we need to trust the plan and make sure it is valid and trustworthy. Starting with transform planning. We need to look at what does an xP&A platform have to be capable of? What does it need to do? So first up, we have modeling capabilities. Within planning, and especially the different types of planning, we need a lot of flexibility to deal with those specific requirements. So we need to make sure the financial logic is fitting, but also the logic for things like workforce planning. As we've built those models, the first step is to analyze the information that's coming in, because you need something to base your plan on. What are the assumptions? So you want your direct analysis capabilities. As it's a modern platform, you would expect some type of predictions to seed the plan or maybe even automate some steps entirely, whereas you get started with planning. So planning means gathering inputs from a variety of sources, but as we're working on a single platform, all of those inputs are reconciled directly, and we can run more sophisticated logic, like specific business logic for finance or allocations. Then we've done our plans, but we want to compare it to the actuals. What is the variances? So we want that type of reporting capability as well. And overarching over that process, we naturally want to make sure that everyone understands what is expected at a given point in time using workflow and collaboration, thus making the process as efficient as possible. The platform in itself is not the only solution. You also need to make sure that those models that you generate are integrated by design. Meaning, if we have a strategic plan on multiple years, it needs to insert into the financial plan that monetizes this. But the financial plan needs to expect inputs from, for example, IT planning as a major cost factor. So all of this needs to be integrated. And then finally, planning doesn't happen in a silo, so you need to be interconnected to your surrounding landscape. Here you just see SAP solutions that we can connect to, and we have added benefits when it's SAP to SAP, but naturally we also support APIs, so we can connect to non-SAP platforms. Just looking at an example here for finance specifically, if we take those planning capabilities and extend to the world of S/4HANA for finance, we have a number of specific benefits. So first up, we have live connectivity and integration to the S/4HANA platform. So if we find an insight, we find a variance, we can actually drill through to the lowest level, meaning we can do analysis on transaction level, because we don't have to duplicate the data for analysis from S4 to our planning platform. Horizontal integration as well. So we have pre-built connectors to make sure that the master data that you're using for your actuals analysis is the same master data we use for planning. So we can actually perform a comparison between plan and actuals. And finally, because we have integration between our consolidation within S/4HANA and our planning in SAC, we can also consolidate our plan data. So we have a group-wide view of where we would end up in the future if we would consolidate now. Similarly, for our human capital management component, we have the same horizontal integration, so master data shared back and forth. But even more exciting is this feedback loop. So if we create a workforce plan, we have the ability to actually write back those newly envisioned positions to our human capital management solution, so it can start recruiting right away. So a real closed loop planning process is something we can facilitate within the SAP ecosystem. Some examples of customers here, where we have on the left First McNess, that have greatly reduced the time that they need to spend to create financial reporting packages, and actually had a very short project time to deploy this due to the integratedness and pre-built content that we deliver with S4 and SAC. For Callaway, similar results, but very important there that they've improved the time needed for planning cycles, but they have done so with a lower dependency on IT support. So our xP&A solution is ready to be run and be definitely partially business owned. Then we get to the second pillar of our strategy. So we go from transform planning to driving agile decisions. So if we look at the process, first, we get information, we get those assumptions, we want to have an understanding. So directly within the platform, you'll find business intelligence capabilities, thus reporting, dashboarding, and self-service BI. So direct speed to the insights that you need. Second up, predictions. Embedded within the platform, you can take the data, the historic data, and create a prediction what would happen if nothing else would change. So what could happen if we wouldn't do a thing? So this is embedded and can help you automate some of the forecasting processes. Finally, we have planning. So it's good and well to understand where we could end up, but where would we want to end up and what do we need to do to make that happen? And that's planning. And that's the unique capability of our xP&A platform, SAP Analytics Cloud, that we have a central platform for reporting, prediction, and planning. Now, what can this prediction bring you? Let's look at the example of Roche, a pharmaceutical company that has actually been able to automate a very large part of their R&D expense forecasting data points that they needed to provide. They now spend less time than before to create this forecast. And maybe even more important, they now have an improvement in accuracy overall. So they spend less time because of the automation and improve accuracy over time. And that is the benefit of this integrated solution. Finally, plan with confidence. So this is all about our unique positioning at SAP. So what do we have? We have seamless integration to the system of record when it comes to the SAP solutions. We have sophisticated business content that you can leverage to really accelerate your FP&A, workforce planning, whatever is your first prioritization in planning, and get that set up. And we have a strong supportive ecosystem because we understand there's all types of industry flavors of planning in between, but we're definitely sure that we have a partner that can support you with that. Now, if we look at that business content, I'll take one example here, which is the integrated financial planning content for S/4HANA. So this is an accelerator to set up your FP&A journey. And this accelerator is aligned with S/4HANA as a source, meaning it becomes shipped with connectors. It comes shipped with the master data structures that you'd expect from S/4HANA. And it comes shipped with input sheets and models and business logic in between. So the next slide might seem a little bit daunting, but what you'll see on the next slide is the processes that integrated financial planning content is actually covering. Now, if we start at the bottom right, we see our expenses coming in. The expenses can then be allocated to a certain type of expenses where we can simulate different rates for those activities that we've devised. And we can provide that together with the revenues coming in, so the sales that we're expecting to do. And if we combine that information, we come to the profitability. And then in the end, if we have done that analysis, we've created our scenarios, we will automatically generate our three-way integrated model, meaning P&L planning, balance sheet planning, and an indirect cash flow statement derived. Now, what is important about this slide? Every box in itself is a model that you can utilize. Every line is a connector that we've set up with the according business logic. But you can start wherever is your preference, meaning it's modular content. So you build it up in a way that makes sense for you. Modular in a multiple perspectives. So yes, this is for financial planning, but if your focus is first workforce planning being one of your financial expenses, it's integrated in that manner. So we have specific workforce planning content where we can plan on an aggregated level or a detailed level. And then if you want to bring that workforce planning inputs into your financial plan, we have pre-delivered handshake mappings. So cost types to GL accounts, so that it also makes sense from the financial perspective. Customer example here is Basler Verkehrsbetriebe. They actually wanted to plan in a very much aligned fashion with the structures of their S/4HANA situation. So they plan on a very granular level, as you see here, with the work-based structure, over 15,000 objects they were planning on. But they're actually a great example that have used the business content to get started quickly. I wanted to highlight this one as it shows the value that we bring with shipping the business content together with our planning solution. Just an example here.
Basler Verkehrsbetriebe transport around 90 million people through the city of Basel each year, around 300,000 per day. We have to make sure that people get from point A to B on time, so that the city of Basel remains attractive. Sustainability is a huge topic in Basel. We have a mandate from the canton to replace the entire bus fleet by 2027, so that we operate emissions-free or with renewable energy. We have to provide a multi-year plan. As a public transport company, we plan in 5 to 10-year cycles. With SAP, we've created a basis to ensure the necessary transparency. SAP Analytics Cloud for planning is the key solution for us. We get our numbers faster, we have consistency, and it automatically uploads into SAP S/4HANA. Plus, we implemented this solution in 4 to 5 months.
4 bis 5 Monaten eingeführt haben.
This was only possible because we worked with predefined content entry forms. Otherwise, it would not have been possible at all. In a daily business, everything runs better now. And we have more time and more resources to focus on other topics. We are laying the foundation for the future of BVB and the city of Basel. So I'd say this is a lighthouse project.
So what we discussed here is the part that is extended planning and analysis being an element of the business technology platform. We discussed the value of it. We also discussed the benefits that it might bring, showing some customer examples and how they've used SAP Analytics Cloud as their xP&A platform. It is important to note, as this is a BTP session, that xP&A, of course, needs to be supported by the surrounding infrastructure. So we might have all kinds of sources from exotic planning systems that only exist within your industry, or specific databases that do have very important drivers that you need to use in your planning, or external systems that need to be fed with the plans that you've created. And within the business technology platform, we have you sorted. So the combination of SAP HANA Cloud, Data Warehouse Cloud, and SAP Data Intelligence Cloud can cater for those needs that you potentially have within your planning environment. Usually, this is the moment where I point you to all the great resources we have, where you can find out a bit more about what is xP&A, how does SAP Analytics Cloud help in xP&A, and how do customers thrive using our content. But today we're very lucky because I'm accompanied by my colleague, Sinead, who will give you a demonstration of what xP&A can actually look like. Sinead?
Hi, everyone. So I'll take over from here. Thank you, Nick. So today I've actually brought an example, and I'll share my screen so you can have a look. So let me know if you can see it, Nick.
Yes, we do.
So today, what I prepared here is an example for us where we can actually see how we have integrated all different LOBs together with the financial planning to come to a very integrated and collaborated planning for the whole company. So we can start by looking at the corporate overview. So already here you can see that in the dashboard, we have data coming in from different LOBs. On the left side, there's sales revenue, the marketing expenses. On the right side, you see the workforce data, attrition rate, and payment management by percentage. The production according to different products, having some delta there. But most importantly, how are the financial performances in the middle of the dashboard? You see the net revenue, operating income, operating margin, or if the variances to the budget. And in the middle, you see a geo map with the breakdown of how each of the different locations are doing. So from this dashboard, you can already have a sort of a feeling of how the company is doing. But of course, to really get into the details, you need to look at the P&L. And here, as you can see all the important KPIs, the net revenue, cost of goods sold, operating expenses, operating income. But here I'd like to draw your attention to how and why extended planning and analysis is so important. Because if we were to here expand the audit dimension, you can see that the positions or the numbers are coming in to the P&L are actually data coming from my LOB. So from the sales planning, I'm actually having the data for my net revenue. For my supply chain, I'm having actually the data coming in from my cost of goods sold. So from this example, you can actually see how important it is to have integrated planning between the different LOBs and the financial planning to have a P&L that's really reflecting exactly how the company is doing. Just for an example here, how this works, I can show you an example of our sales planning. So what you see in front of you is actually an application for the sales organization to plan the budget for the coming year. So it's just an example for planning a budget for 2023. You can see right above here some charts for some help with orientation. You have the gross sales of actuals from last year against the budget and the gross margin, and the same charts with the breakdown according to your different products. At the bottom, you see the planning table. So you see actually the actuals again from 2022, the variances from the actuals to against the budget, and your budget from last year and the budget for this year, the quarterly breakdown, and again the variance against the budget and the for this year against actuals from last year. So what you could do here is to plan manually, but you could also create a prediction to generate some predicted numbers for the planning. You could also perform a simulation. Here, I would like to show you how we have this value driver tree with which you can actually tweak the numbers for the different drivers that drive your net revenue. So for example, if I would say, well, maybe I would like to simulate how it would be for the market growth when it grows to, let's say, 30%. And here you can exactly see if the market growth has increased to 30%, it would have an impact on the quantity, gross sales, discount, and I'll be arriving at a net revenue of about 1.8 billion. So maybe I'll say that's a number that I would like to have. I could actually try to increase it for the budget for 2023 for all customers. But let's say, I would not like to invest that much in cross bikes as a product, so I can lock it, and not so much also for youth bikes. And now I'll bring up the budget. And I'll just allocate the budget that I've increased to the other 3 product types, the cruise bike, mountain bike, and racing bike. So there's a lot of flexibility for the planning, for the sales planning to do the budget planning here. But what's great about extended planning analysis is that while the sales organization is doing this, if I now return to my P&L and I refresh, I would like to call to attention that the new budget I've planned here, the 1.8 billion. And now we're now to refresh my P&L. The finance department can actually see the planned budget updated in the P&L immediately. So this is where the benefit comes in, although for these 2 very different departments, that one can actually benefit from the planning results of the other department with integrated with extended planning and analysis. So this is not only happening between sales and financial planning. What I would like to also show you is, of course, the workforce planning content that you have seen earlier in Nick's slide. So for workforce planning content, we have, I think some of you would already be familiar with this content, which is available freely within the content network of SAP Analytics Cloud. It's a content package that comes complete with applications for the configuration, for aggregated planning and detailed planning, and of course, with ready-made reports for you to see the different breakdowns and different rate results of your planning process. I'd like to start with the aggregated internal planning. So I've opened the app up beforehand. It is, again, an app in itself, which is fully enabled for the planners to plan a top-down headcount demand. So I could actually go in, have a chart, and let's say I want to compare my aggregated planning against detailed planning, see the variances. And I could come in and say, maybe for German quality control cost center, maybe for the 4th period, I'd like to increase the headcount from 5 to 10. And I would like to see what does that mean in my cost. So I will ask the system to calculate the increased cost resulting from this increased FTE for me, and having it immediately reflected here in my table. And I could actually also say, well, I'm happy with this number, or if I want, I could actually do some manual adjustments here. And at the end of the day, I would say, well, the number seems okay. I can confirm it. As you can see, I am still within the space or the area of workforce planning. But once I'm done, and that's the beauty of it, I can actually publish my numbers, make it known to the head HR planning space. And at the same time, also make this number known to my colleagues and in financial planning by releasing this number to financial planning, publishing it to the budget version. And that's the beauty of extended planning analysis, because if I were to go back now to my P&L, Again, you see that if I refresh now, do it again. I have the numbers coming in from my headcount planning. It's rounded up to the next because we had another different scale here. So it's 9 billion. But you can see the numbers coming directly into the employee expenses under operating expense. So again, that's how when we have an integrated and tightly closely knitted planning between the different LOBs and financial planning, you can see how easy it is to have a really good overview at every point in time for the company. Another example I'd like to show you for the workforce planning is the detailed planning, which is the bottom-up planning for workforce planning. With the same content package, you're actually able to plan for absence and movements and also create new positions. You can actually, for example, for the employee Sarah Moons, just select adjust employment level, maybe reduce it from 1 to 0.8, starting maybe in May, ending at the end of the year. And you can go into the app, and that's where you will start to adjust the FTE for this particular employee. And it's just as similar as the aggregated planning, you are able to now go in and calculate the FTE costs, which I'll not repeat here again. What's more important, and this is also you have seen in Nick's slide beforehand, how we are able to write back to others SAP system. I would like to show you how it is possible for you to just create with SAP Analytics Cloud new position and having it right back into the SuccessFactors system. So at this part of the application, you can actually go to, we have actually created 2 positions beforehand. So I'll just show the description so it's easier to read. And you can see now, I can just go here into create position, make use of the templates already available there, or I can actually freely create a combination that of my own. But as you can see, there are many fields, and as is common in the HR scenario, you do have many created positions beforehand that you would just like to create a similar one. So we have this template made readily available for you. So let's say for development and analyst lead, I would like to create a new position. Also for the German HR cost center, and having this new position not as a full 100% 1 FTE, but maybe just 0.6, and valid from maybe from January. Now, this, I can do it in any form that I wish to do it, but the important thing is that at the end of the day, when I'm done, I'm able to transfer this position that I've created back into SuccessFactors. And I just need to create, click on the button. And the write back is taking place via the multi-action component of SAP Analytics Cloud. It takes this position and write it per handshake mapping back into SuccessFactors. And if I were to enter here now, Employee Central, go into Manage Positions. And you will see the same position that I've created being written back into SuccessFactors with the 0.6 FTE. And we can see here also with the relevant positions also created and written back into SuccessFactors directly. So in a nutshell, this is just a 2 example of how the sales LOB and the HR colleagues can actually work together with the financial colleagues, and at the same time have a seamless integration into the other SAP systems, where to have a collaborated and integrated planning together. So this is what I have today for you. Back to you, Tanya.
Go. And I'll share. Oops, here we go. So thank you so much, Jenny. Actually, we do not have questions in the chat currently. So perhaps one thing people always want to know. So, I mean, both of your presentations were awesome, very interesting. And I can imagine that someone says, so how do I get started? Where do I start first? Can you provide any
Sure.
ideas?
So I've pasted a few links in the chat. That's actually a great start. Not in any particular order either. But what you see in the chat is one thing, which is a customer example. To me personally, they always serve as a great example of what is possible. So you have a bit of a feel of what is the art of the possible. The second thing you see there is a guided experience. So if you go to that page, you can click and you can basically spin up a tenant for yourself personally, where you can have a guided experience. So it will guide you through some scenarios, but it's actually a live tenant. So you can really get started to experience the system on what xP&A could mean to you. Finally,
Nick,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you. I'm afraid I cannot see those links. So perhaps if you can shortly send them to me, I will post them in the chat.
Yeah, definitely. I thought I had them in the chat, but I'll make sure that they're in our chat and you can post them. So that's the second link. The third link is business content. So if you want to get started with business content, you can, but it's of course interesting to read what is possible, what is out there. And I've pasted, or we will paste, a community page where you can catch up on all of the business content that's available. Then I also see some questions popping up in the chat now from Roy.
Exactly. Yes.
So I see number one, for aligned master data, do we need to have SAP MDI, master data intelligence, implemented? No. So aligned master data in this sense means that you can run jobs between your source system and your actual planning system, where the planning system is not the system of record. So you want to make sure that you source your master data from the system of record, and that's what we facilitate. Number two, am I right in saying SAP IBP is not part of xP&A, unlike financial planning, workforce planning, planning analytics? SAP IBP data needs to be brought into xP&A and vice versa. No, you are not. So IBP is part of that vision. So supply chain planning is a very distinctive type of planning that requires constraint-based planning, network-based planning, and we actually have integrations of SAP Analytics Cloud and SAP IBP to foster a value-focused story, which is typically what we look at in finance and in generic sense within xP&A, but you also have volume drivers that are needed within xP&A. And with that, and it's a question of semantics, so don't worry, xP&A is more the overarching view where IBP can definitely be a part of xP&A. But IBP in itself is also managing very much supply chain planning questions, which in itself are not necessarily xP&A. But don't worry too much about the semantics. The important part is we have them interconnected, and we have set them up interconnected. Freudenberg is actually a great example that has used SAP IBP and SAP Analytics Cloud in tandem. Number three, could I send the planned version for approval workflow? Definitely. So within our calendar functionality, we have an approval workflow. We can have multiple approvals that you need, and you also have delegation, so you can choose someone else to commit to a given part. So we have workflows with multiple layers embedded within our solution. Can these planning charts be easily exported to PowerPoint? Yes, there is an embedded capability to export to PDF and PowerPoint, or you can even schedule them in broadcasting or bursting mode to PDF. So that's all the questions I see in the chat, and that gives me some time to repost the links into the chat so that Tanya can push them as well.
Yes, that would be perfect. So, and this also gives our attendees time to think of other questions. I will take the opportunity to post the email addresses in the chat as well. Number one. So in case any questions pop up after our session is over, please feel free to contact us. Here we go. And yeah, so Roy, I just pasted Nick's email address. And Nick, we have a question.
I see it. So the question is how we can assign planning user by which role. So there's a very elaborate ability to set up security, authorization, and roles. So what we have within our platform is the capability to provide teams. Teams have certain privileges, and those privileges could be application-based. So are you allowed to create your own dashboards? Are you allowed to run data actions? Those kind of things. So what are you allowed to do within the application? It is rights that you provide to given folders, so folders that you might have access to. And finally, it's also rights on a data perspective. So what type of data are you allowed to read, so see, and what data are you allowed to write? And this can, of course, be a moving target. So we also have data locking capabilities that are set up. So now the plan is open to these persons. Then it will be closed, it will be locked, and it needs to be reviewed. As soon as it's reviewed, it's pushed to the next level. So you can cater for those different instances. In the help pages, we've written that out quite specifically. So if you look in the help pages for roles and teams, you will find all of that information. I see one more question from Roy. Number 4, for which all objects there are standard APIs for write back from SAC Planning to S/4HANA on-premise available now and in the future. So this is written out. There is specific connectors. They are connected to the AC.P table and to the cost rate table to write back and forth the activity rates. Specific connections can also be set up. What can also be leveraged is the new export API in SAP Analytics Cloud, which is a generic OData pool. So there, the source application could be S4, could also be non-SAP actually, can pull transaction and master data from SAP Analytics Cloud. So I would say this open API is very exciting, also for the ones that are not in an SAP-minded landscape, because it's open, which is one of the benefits. And there's an import API coming soon as well.
Well, we still have a lot of time. I have posted the links Nick mentioned.
Thank you.
I posted your email addresses. Yeah, so if any questions pop up, feel free to contact us. And yeah, so I think with this, I would like to thank Nick and Jenny very, very much for your excellent presentation. I concur with what our attendees wrote in the chat. I really enjoyed it myself, so much that I forgot to post the links because I listened myself. And of course, big warm thanks to all attendees for joining. And I definitely hope to see you again in our next sessions. And with this, if no questions pop up, and it seems none pop up, I will end and hope and wish you all a great day and a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.